Time now for this week's Ask Your Meteorologist, and we're in the Weather Center hanging out with Jacob Dickey this afternoon. Jacob, people have been looking up in the sky, got a bunch of questions. Looks like it's raining airplanes.
Yeah. People are asking me questions that really don't even have to do with the weather, but anything that's in the sky, they're like, hey, what's going on? And I know that's what our first question is.
Yeah, our first question is, why are all the military aircraft flying through Champaign-Urbana recently?
There's a number of reasons. If you've heard them, the fighter jets, you know how loud they can be here. I'll show you a picture. First off, this was just on Tuesday morning at Willard Airport. Some fighter jets flying by. We've had a lot of other things flying through here. We've had Chinook helicopters spotted. We've had C-17 planes spotted, fighter jets spotted, and making a lot of noise. It's either a combination of training exercises. They're on their way to some air shows. Terre Haute had an air show this past weekend. Look at this. Isn't this fun? You can hear the audio. Can you hear the audio in that?
Oh, my goodness.
The jets, that's them taking off.
Roar.
Tuesday morning. And Lisa sent that on, and she's at the runway. They were doing some construction there, a project, and she caught the video of that. Really fun to just, I mean, it's so fun, isn't it?
I'll tell you, it is like a different kind of experience when you see these in person.
Yeah. There's another video, a second video there with 4 of them in formation. That happened Tuesday morning. I was at home getting ready, and the whole house shook from them going overhead. They were really low in formation and landed there. We've got a third video as well. There it is. There's one of them by itself flying out there. See how low he is?
That is incredibly low.
He's pretty low, so a lot of good photos and videos coming on in from that. And then we've got... yeah, we've had some fun with that.
Yeah, I think the sound that these things make is almost more impressive than seeing the planes themselves.
It really is. You hear it first, and you're like, where is it? Could you imagine, too? Check out this picture right here. Golfers, see, they're at the golf course. They see them flying over. There's some kids having some fun.
It's like we got our own little private air show here.
I know, right? Just looking up. I mean, it catches everyone's attention, so it's always super fun to see. Anytime you see stuff like that, let us know. Even though it's not weather-related, if it's in the sky, we're usually pretty interested in it.
It's worth talking about.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of seeing strange things in the sky,
here's another one.
That leads us to our second question is, I was out at the Lake of the Woods and spotted this unusual smoke ring floating in the sky. How'd that happen?
I got a bunch of reports and photos and things of that, and it looks kind of like this here. There it is. There's that smoke ring, and just this little ring in the sky here. You kind of wonder, what is that? I think the video shows it a lot better here. Can you see that there, kind of floating? I mean, it's moving in the sky there, and it was hovering for a while. It's really interesting. What this is a smoke ring. It's also called a ring vortex. Basically, what happens is if you get a pulse of hot air, you think of those diesel trucks or tractors or semis, they get a puff of smoke here. You got to have the right weather conditions, a stable air mass. That's how the weather was over the weekend. We were pretty quiet Sunday. Not a lot of cloud cover, not a lot of movement. So when that pulse of hot air went up and cooled off, it created that ring vortex there. You can think of it this way. If you ever see an explosion, you know, something blow up, or you just light a fire and you see that billowing, rolling effect, it's that same thing, but it kind of gets trapped in place here. And so then you get that little spinning vortex that shows up.
That's not like smog or
car exhaust? Is what it is.
It's actual smoke.
It's smoke.
That got caught by the weather system and just
kind of air currents in place were perfect to allow that to persist. A lot of times what happens is that there's usually a little bit of water vapor present, and so that some of that smoke also has water condensate on it, and so it can help it to linger for a long time. Really interesting to see. We've had them before, but they're really rare. So if you ever see something like that, it's not aliens.
There are no UFOs.
Yeah,
we're safe.
Like so,
just a weather phenomenon. Well, we got one more question, and that one kind of comes to what we talked about recently was the Northern Lights. Are we going to see them again soon?
It's really interesting. Usually, you know, about 24 to 48 hours ahead of time that you've got a chance for that. And one thing that we look at is those sunspots here. If you remember in May was actually the most active time for sunspots since 2002. So a long time here. So one of these sunspots actually is pretty noteworthy. AR's 3697. That is the same sunspot that caused us the Northern Lights. Had those big solar flares a couple of weeks ago, and it rotated around the sun. It's now facing us here. So if we see something like this and some of this imagery here, this was from May, a big solar flare pop up. It gives us about a 24 to 36 hour heads up where that plasma in space comes our way. And as of Tuesday midday, we have yet to have had a big solar flare, but that's a very active sunspot, and we're entering into the peak of the solar cycle here. Every 11 years or so, you hit a peak. So we're into that. So there may be more chances of that. Of course, we'll let you know.
All right. Keep your eyes on the sky. You might see some strange lights, smoke rings, or maybe a fighter jet or two. If you have a question for our meteorologist, you can connect with them online, and maybe they'll answer your question next week.